This happened a little over a decade ago when I was an undergrad. I worked as a pharmacy technician my sophomore through senior years. At a pharmacy, you of course have your regulars. One regular was Joe, a man in his mid-30s with long straggly hair and an infinity of bizarre outfits. He was very sweet, but also very ill, mentally and physically. He was on a cocktail of antipsychotics, anti-anxiety, anti-depression, etc. He was also on medicine for AIDS. Normally, Joe came in with his mother, who took care of him. However, his mother was older and had her own health problems. Towards the end of my junior year, Joe started coming in by himself. He couldn't drive, so he'd walk from his home or take a taxi. Joe told me frequently that I looked like Michelle Pfeiffer, and that I should be in LA, and so on. Aside from my curly blonde hair, I never really saw a resemblance, but okay. I was polite and told him thank you, and then asked how his mother was. We made general small talk while I rang up his scripts, and he never gave me the beware vibe. My senior year, Joe's mother came in without him and told us that Joe wasn't doing well. He was refusing to take his antipsychotics, and she was getting too old to defend herself if Joe went into a rage. She was having him placed in a home for patients like Joe. I didn't know until that day that Joe was technically under guardianship. The courts and his doctors deemed him too ill to make important financial and medical decisions. Joe's mother gave us a medical release so that Joe's new home could send their staff to pick up his medicine. We didn't see Joe for about 4 months. It was the end of my senior year on a Friday night. Only the pharmacist and I were working because Friday nights are slow. I was reading a magazine when I heard, "Hey, Michelle." I'm not Michelle, so I didn't look up. Then an angry, "Michelle," and a slap on the counter in front of me made me look up. It was Joe. He was bleeding profusely, and he left a bloody handprint on the counter. I was shocked, and all I could do was slowly back away and put distance between myself and the very bloody Joe. The pharmacist came rushing over asking Joe what he was doing here, and told him that his home already picked up his meds on Tuesday. "I wanted to see Michelle," said Joe. "I miss her." Then he started trying to open the waist-high door to get behind the pharmacy counter. The pharmacist called the store manager and told the manager to call 911 while she called Joe's mother. "Michelle, come here, give me a hug." "No, I don't think that would be appropriate, Joe." "Give me a hug." He started screaming this over and over and attempting to climb over the counter. The pharmacist told me to go in the back storage room and lock the door. This pissed Joe off, and he started picking up items, which covered them in blood, and threw them at us. It was a chaotic mess. A patron was about to attempt to subdue him, but the pharmacist and I both shouted not to touch him due to him being covered in blood and positive for HIV. We told the small crowd that had formed to leave for their safety, as Joe was still flinging items and getting blood everywhere. Eventually, the police and EMTs arrived. The store manager must have explained the blood and HIV issue, because they had on protective gear, long gloves, face masks, etc., and were able to forcibly sedate Joe. The store had to be shut down, and a special cleaning crew had to come in and clean the entire store. Joe's mother came in to apologize after the store reopened. She explained that Joe had developed an obsession with me, and grew angrier each month when his home would not allow him to tag along to pick up his medication. He attacked one of the other home residents the night of the incident, so the home head grounded him and sent him to his room. Joe broke his window and crawled out, through the broken glass, and walked to the pharmacy. The home did not even know he had broken out until his mother called frantically. His mother was considering suing the home for negligence, and she had Joe moved to a more secure mental health facility. I'm going to start this off by saying this happened to me a few weeks ago. I live in a relatively bad neighborhood. I hear gunshots almost every night. It's become so common it doesn't even freak me out anymore. I usually make jokes about it. Break-ins are relatively common too. I'm pretty young, 18, and my girlfriend and I decided that this would be a good house to start off in. My parents own the house, so the rent is really cheap. We had been hearing a bit of noise outside. Often we would hear people talking, or taps on the window, so my girlfriend would make me go check outside to make sure no one was there. I would take my shotgun with me and look around, but I never found anyone. One night my roommates decided to go out, and that left the house to my girlfriend and me. I had a friend over, and we planned on getting drunk and having a fun night. However, we got tired early and ended up not drinking much, so we decided to head off to bed. My friend slept on a pull-out chair in front of my bed, and my bed was angled directly towards the sliding doors that lead to the dining room. Behind that was a door that led to the garage that was converted into a living room. We didn't go out there often, as it was extremely cold and we didn't have any heaters out there. We usually just closed the room off and chilled in the bedroom. At around 4 in the morning, I couldn't sleep, so I decided to lay in bed and watch YouTube videos on my phone. I always keep one earphone out so I can hear if anything is wrong. After a while, I started to get a little tired, so I put my phone down and covered up. About 5 minutes later, I heard some noise coming from the living room. I sat there listening to make sure it wasn't just my imagination. Suddenly, I hear my back door slam open. I jumped straight out of bed and grabbed my shotgun, which I kept loaded in the corner of my room. I tried to be as quiet as possible, so whoever it was didn't know where in the house I was at. My girlfriend woke up and whispered, "What was that?" I shushed her and told her to quietly lay on the ground in case whoever this was had a gun, and I peered through the crack of my door to see what was going on. The kitchen light was on, so I could see back to where the door was. The knob turned and slowly opened. At this point I was shivering, as I had never been in a situation like this. As all this was happening, my friend still did not wake up, even as I was nudging him trying to get him to hide. The door opened completely, but the room was pitch black. I couldn't see who or what was there. I waited for a minute, and nothing happened. I decided to yell, "Who the fuck is there?" I got no reply. It had been a couple of minutes, so I decided I had to do something, as we were just sitting ducks. I collected my nerves and threw open the door and ran to the other side of the room in case he had a gun. I stopped and listened for footsteps. Only silence. After shitting myself, I walked around the corner to the pitch-black room. We had a giant mirror that goes to a dresser lying in the middle of the floor, and a dog kennel behind that. I turned on the flashlight on my phone to take a look. No one was there. The door to the closet in the room was slightly cracked, so I figured he was hiding in there. I swung it open and backed up, aiming my gun in there. No one. He now knew exactly where I was at. This frightened me the most, because I still had no clue where he was. I looked behind the mirror. No one. I looked in the living room. No one. I finally told myself that he had ran out the door when I yelled. I closed the back door, well, as much as I could considering he broke off the locks, and walked back to my bedroom to call the police. As I was walking back, I saw something behind the mirror laying inside the kennel. It was a man, covered in blood, staring at me. We both made direct eye contact, and I froze. I had looked behind the mirror, but I didn't think to look in the kennel. He leapt out and ran towards me, and I almost dropped my gun. I aimed it directly at him and fired. He flew backwards over the top of the kennel. I couldn't believe it. I shot someone. He was completely still. His eyes were still open, and he had a look of pure hatred. Then he started to move. I was in shock. I aimed my gun back down at him and told him if he moves anywhere I will blow his head off. As I was saying this, he fell over dead. I then noticed he was holding something in his hand. It wasn't a gun or even a knife. I went up to inspect it. It was a photograph. It was covered in blood, so I tried to wipe some of it off. When I realized what was in the picture, I dropped my gun and nearly fainted. It was a picture of my girlfriend and me laying in bed. The camera was right in front of our faces when it was taken. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. If you would like a chance to have your story featured in an upcoming video, make sure you check the description for information on how to submit your stories. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll catch you in the next video. And just remember, it's always scarier if it's true.